everyone, it's Zzoffer and I'm back with another video. So, a lot of you guys have been asking if I can show you how to make these sketchbooks, because if you haven't seen any of the videos that I talk about it in, I do make my own sketchbooks sometimes. And since October is coming up fairly soon, which means Inktober, I figured that I would show you how I go about making these sketchbooks, because I always just make my own sketchbook for Inktober because I don't want to do it in the sketchbook that I'm working in currently. I want to have it in like its own little sketchbook. It's also really nice because you get to decide what it looks like and how many pages it has and what kind of paper is in there. So it's very customizable. So what you will need for this project is some paper. You can get any kind that you want. I recommend getting some heavier paper. This was the heaviest paper that I could find in my local store. We don't have any craft or art stores where I live. So we just have a bookstore that also sells paper and stuff like that. So I just got this kind of paper, which is also really convenient, and I'll show you why later, but it has this really nice piece of I don't know what to call it, poster board or cardboard, like a thick piece of cardboard on the back that we can use. You will also need something that can cut, and then you'll need a needle and some thread. And lastly, you will also need some bookbinding tape. This one is optional, however, if you can't find any or you just don't want to put bookbinding tape on there. It's what I use for the spine here, just to make it look more cohesive and neat. So the first step will be to take apart your paper. Unless you get it in loose sheets, then you don't have to do this, obviously. So you want to just get rid of this. There we go. Don't need that. And then usually a block of paper like this will have glue on the end that it's connected at, and you want to get rid of that because most blocks of paper like this should have a rubbery piece of something that's holding together all of the pages. And usually you can either just pull it all off at once, or you'll have to just take the sheets of paper out separately and then you can peel the glue off of each of them. Okay, so now I have freed the paper from the block. So how many sheets do you need to make a sketchbook? Well, you need to ask yourself how many pages you want your sketchbook to be. I personally only use one side of the page because I don't like it when it bleeds through to the other side. But every single piece of paper that you have is going to be folded in half like so, which would give me 2 pages to draw on for every piece of paper. So you want to find out how many pages you're going to need in your sketchbook, and then you want to divide that by 2, because every piece of paper will make 2 pages. Unless you do like to draw on both sides, then you can divide it by 4 instead, because then one piece of paper will give you 4 pages to draw on. I'm making my sketchbook for Inktober, and if I only make it for 1 year of Inktober, it gets kinda skinny, and I like to have more thickness to my sketchbook, so I'm gonna make it for 2 years of Inktober. So the month of October has 31 days in it, but I also want to have 2 title pages in there, one for each year, so I'm going to add that on there. So I have 32 pieces of paper here. Let's put these aside for a second, because before we move on, I'm going to take the rest of this block of paper, and then I'm going to free the backing from the rest of the block. And the way that this is attached is actually kind of annoying because it's glued onto the backing, which means that we'll have to rip this off, and that's going to give us a gross edge here, but you know. So I'm just going to cut the remaining paper off of here, but without cutting the backing because we need it to have a nice clean edge. Whoops, I cut it. Ha 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 ha, don't tell anyone. And then I'm just gonna rip this, I think. There we go. So as you can see, I ended up ripping the backing pretty badly, but it's okay. We can use it as the back side of the cover and just put this on the inside because no one's ever really gonna see the back side. And I want to be resourceful, so I want to use everything that I can from this block that I bought. Also, I'm guessing that most people don't have a thick piece of backing like this lying around their house, So you're probably gonna need to use whatever you get from your block of paper. So now we're going to take the paper and fold it in half. And it's very important that we get it to line up with the other side so that we get a nice even sketchbook. So you line it up like this, and then you hold it while you make sure that it's staying in place. You use your thumbs to flatten out the middle section here. And then you want to flatten this edge as much as you possibly can. So you want to take some kind of object and just go like this along the edge to make sure that it is as flat as you can get it. But you also want to be careful that you don't end up making a mark on the paper while you're doing this, because that's not going to be very nice. Then once you finish folding all of your papers, you want to divide them into what is called signatures. A signature is basically just a group of pages. So you want to find a number that can be divided by the total of pages that you have, and then you just want to take that amount of pages and then put them into each other like a tiny book. So you want to have a lot of tiny books making up one big book. Personally, I find that 4 pages is one too many in a signature, because then you start to get this overhang and it's gonna be weird. If you have a guillotine cutter, you can just cut it off, but I don't. 3 pages in each signature is what I'm gonna be doing. I ended up deciding that 3 pieces of paper per signature was too many, so I made it 2 pieces of paper per signature. So once you have all of your signatures made, you want to get them into a book formation like so, and you want to make sure that they're as straight as they can possibly get. So you want to just like turn them over a couple times and make sure that they're aligned in a nice way. And then you want to take binder clips like these, and oh, this is tough. And you want to clip them on here to hold it together. And you don't want to clip them on this side because we're gonna be marking this side. So you want to keep that side clean or clear of clips. So now you want to decide where you want your stitches to be. You can either go with 2 stitches on the bottom and 2 stitches on the top, or you can go with 3 times 2 stitches so that you also have some in the middle of the thing to hold it together better. I usually go for just 4 in total, 2 here, 2 here, but I think this time I'm gonna go for 6 stitches in total, so 2 here, 2 there, and 2 in the middle. So you can either measure it out and make sure that there's an even distance between all of the stitches, or you can just eyeball it. It doesn't really matter that much. I'm just kind of like a perfectionist with that kind of thing. So I'm gonna measure mine. So you probably can't see it super well, but I marked across the pages with a pencil where I want all of the stitches to be, so I know that they will be aligned. And this next step is optional, but I like to take a knife and just gently cut across all of the pages like so, making sure that I cut far enough down that I actually cut through all of them, because some of them will be sticking up more than others. But I do this so that I already have a hole in the paper when I go to stick my needle through it, and that's gonna make it easier for me to do the sewing. Okay, now it is time to get out the needle and thread. And I've taken one of the binder clips off of there, but I'm leaving this one just so that I still have my pages aligned nicely like I want to. So I'm gonna make it so that the knot is gonna be on this side, because we're gonna put tape over it anyway, so we won't see it. And this thing that we're gonna be doing here is called a kettle stitch. Hello, Future Zzoffer here to tell you that I'm an idiot, because it's not called a kettle stitch, it's called a Coptic stitch. Yes, but that will be all. Continue. And I'm probably not gonna do a super great job of explaining how it's done, so feel free to go look up a tutorial on YouTube if you don't understand what I'm trying to tell you. But you want to find the middle of the first signature and kind of open it up, and then you want to put your needle through the hole you made, or poke a hole where you made your pencil mark. Then you just want to drag it all the way through like so. And you have to make sure that your knot is big enough that your thread isn't going to slip through. Once you've done that, you want to go to the other side of this stitch, and you want to poke your needle through This is really hard to do while trying to show you guys. But you want to poke your needle through on the other side. Whoops. And sometimes you accidentally poke it through somewhere that it's not supposed to go. You want to try to avoid it, but it's not a big deal if you do. Okay, so now we went down here, across, and then up again. And this is why you want to have the two holes next to each other here for this one gathering of the pages, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But then you want to stick it into the next signature. And also be careful that you don't knot your thread too much. I do that all the time. But then you just want to pull it through, like so. And then you want to continue, again, just poking it back up the second hole of this signature. Like so. And you want to keep it tight, but you don't want to pull enough that you're going to rip the pages. So you have to kind of find out what the balance is there. And then I'm going to stick it back down this first hole because we don't really have anything that we can loop it through yet. So I'm going to just make a little extra stitch here in the beginning. And then we're going to go back up through that second hole of this first signature. So the point of the kettle stitch is that you go through the holes of the signature and then you go back through the thread of the previous signature and you kind of loop it through so that you secure it to the previous page without making all this mess with your thread. Ah, Jesus. There we go. Because that way you can bind the pages together. I'm really bad at explaining things. But let's try and do a couple more of these stitches. So we go through the third signature now. And then we open it up, find the needle, and pull the needle tight, or pull the thread tight. And then we go up through this second hole of the signature, without making a million new holes. And then we pull it tight, but not too tight. So now we went through the loop, down the hole, across, and then up again. So now we're gonna go through this loop that we have here, and then we're gonna go down into the hole of the fourth signature that hasn't yet been attached to anything. Like that, and then we're just gonna go back and forth while looping it across and then going into the next one. So it's gonna go down, over, up, loop through, and then down through the next one. And then over, up, loop, down through the next one. And while you're doing that, you wanna make sure that you get it nice and tight without pulling so much that you end up ripping the paper, because that's an issue. But you want it to be nice and tight like this so that the pages don't fan out from each other like this. And once you sewed all of the joints together, it should look something like this. And now it's time to put on the cover. So I went ahead and cut the backing of the paper block in half. And then I lined it up with this block of pages. And then I marked where the holes are on the papers. So you want to get your needle and thread back out, and then you want to attach it to the paper. So just go through here, and then you loop the thread through itself like so. So it makes a nice little knot here. And then you go through the first hole of the cover, and then back up through the second one. Tighten. And then you go back down and go through the thread on the pages so that you can secure it to that. And then you just want to do that a couple times, and then you do it to all of the holes and the other side of the cover. Now that both of the covers are on here, this is the back cover, here is the front cover. There we go. It is ready for the final step, which is putting the bookbinding tape on there. So you want to cut out a piece and get it ready. So now you want to align the tape with the sketchbook. You want to make sure that you're putting it on nice and straight. So once you got it on there and you're satisfied with that, you want to make sure that it's sticking nice and tight on there. And then you really want to make sure that you're pinching the book together nice and tight. So you might want to get your binder clips back out. And then you want to fold over the tape, making sure that you're stretching it so that you're keeping the book together very nicely. And then you just fold it over. Make sure that you have a nice straight edge. You're probably not gonna get that. I always get it kind of curvy like so. But that's okay because this is the back side. There we go. That's nice and curvy. Whoops. Boop. And there we go. So my favorite part about making these sketchbooks is that I get to draw something on the front cover of it because I really love decorating my own sketchbooks. So I'ma do that now. So I just drew a simple little thing on the front that says Inktober, and then it has a couple of ghost cats, just keeping it simple. This video is getting really long by now, so I'm very sorry that I couldn't cut it down any more than this, but I tried. I hope that you managed to enjoy it anyway though, and if you're still here, then wow, thank you for sticking through to the very end of this. Ooh, leave a comment down below if you watched it all the way to this point saying I love ghost cats ! But that's about it for this video, so I hope that you guys enjoyed it. This is the most requested thing on my channel, I think, probably. So I hope that you guys can use it to make your own sketchbooks. If you do, then please show me. Send me pictures. You can tweet them to me. You can, yes, do that. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you later.